Like she thought she had a beautiful castle built with someone. And in the blink of an eye, seeing all that stuff on his phone, it brought that castle down to ashes, literally. It was nothing. It was dust. There were no walls. There was no foundation. There was no shared soul space between us. There was no love. It was all an illusion. Hello again. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Words with me, Najwa. I've always been a firm believer in the power of words to fix what they didn't break and to break what they had no business in breaking. Today's episode is a highly requested one, and the topic is, drumroll, how to move on after betrayal. The first thing I want to say is I really need you to acknowledge how painful it is to go through betrayal. This is not something that's just like, oh, everybody goes through it and this is how you move on. You level up, you glow up, you do this, you do that. Your life becomes better. You just forget that they existed. Sure, you hear all of that and it feels great. But if you don't acknowledge how painful that experience was, it's always going to be somewhere in the back of your head, somewhere in the depths of your soul, screaming at you saying, that was so painful. The reason you become so avoidant in your relationships or so nonchalant or detached or you just don't care is because you never want to put yourself in a situation where you ever get attached to a point where you give somebody the power to hurt you in that way. That's the lesson you've learned. If I don't get close enough to be hurt, I won't be hurt. So I'm not going to get close enough. I would rather end something instead of working on it. I would rather pull away instead of actually leaning in and being uncomfortable. And I'm sure you deal with people like that in your daily life, and it frustrates you. It frustrates you to try so hard to explain to this person that relationships are built on communication. They're built on vulnerability. They're built on showing the other person that you actually care. They're built on investing emotionally. They're built on sacrificing certain things that you've always been scared to let go of, but you're so aware that if you sacrifice a little bit, the growth that's going to happen is so amazing. You experience this every day in your life and it frustrates you, but at the same time, when it comes to your own healing, you're not willing to go deep into that wound to figure out exactly what it needs and to figure out exactly how to heal it so that you actually can heal it. And that's why I'm saying you begin by acknowledging how painful the betrayal was. How painful was it when you first discovered that the person you never thought would hurt you in that way actually hurt you in that way? Go back to that moment, like close your eyes and settle in. And I know I always speak a little bit slower than usual. I'm going a little bit faster today, but let's slow down and genuinely go back to the moment that you discovered that that person betrayed you. Maybe someone messaged you and said, hey, I saw your person do this, or I heard them say this. Maybe you were out innocently enjoying your life and you saw them out with somebody else. Or maybe you went through their phone and saw certain things that you never thought that you would see. And all of a sudden, this image that you had of them as, this is a person who would never cheat on me. This is a person who would never betray me. This is a person who would never talk about me that way. This is a person who would never describe me in this way. All of a sudden, that image crumbles to the ground. Everything you thought you knew is all of a sudden nothing you ever imagined you would know. The perfect example of this is what we recently witnessed with Jana and Kenny. They've been in a relationship for an entire year, and to every outsider, it looked like it was incredible, and they were so in love, and everyone commented on how amazing Kenny is and how clear it was from the beginning that he actually loved her and cared for her and was really invested in her. And all of a sudden, it just crumbled in a moment. And the first thing that came to my mind is, poor Janae, how is she dealing with this? To go from believing that this person loves you so much, and out of the blue, you see messages on their phone describing you in certain ways that are so hurtful, like to your core, and saying things like, I thought I would be making more money off of this relationship, or I'm just doing this for clout, or whatever. Her reality was, this is so incredible. This is so amazing. I finally found the person that I want to be with. And all of a sudden, it crumbled to the ground. Like she thought she had a beautiful castle built with someone. And in the blink of an eye, seeing all that stuff on his phone, it brought that castle down to ashes, literally. It was nothing. It was dust. There were no walls. There was no foundation. There was no shared soul space between us. There was no love. It was all an illusion. It was all something that was aimed at my own detriment at the end. Like, how does that actually feel? Of course, it's like tempting to say, move on with your life, and you're too good to even feel the pain of this person betraying you, or just because their intentions towards you were never real or were never what you thought they were, just move on from them and find somebody new. And it's easy to say that, but where does the pain go? Where does the heartache go? Where does the, I thought we had our whole lifetime ahead of us go? Where does the, I saw a house and I thought it would be perfect for us to live in? Where does the, I can't wait for us to have a kid together go? Where does the, I can't wait for our wedding day, where does that go? Where does the, I'm going and shopping for a ring or for a dress, where does that go? Does it just go away because you see that this person never was who they convinced you they were? Does it just go away as fast as that? It makes you human to feel the pain. It doesn't mean you are weak to feel the pain. It doesn't mean that you are so stuck on someone just because you've spent so much time healing from what they put you through. It makes you human. And I really need you to stop surrounding yourself with people who speak in that way. I need you to stop surrounding yourself with environments that convince you that being stuck on something or someone makes you weak. You're not stuck because you want to be stuck. You're stuck because something really bad happened to you and you're trying to figure out how to move on from it. You're not going to genuinely move on from it if you don't acknowledge how bad it was. In one of our previous episodes, I talked about narcissism, and I talked about how they really want to distort your reality. They want to make you believe that the way you see things is wrong. So like if they shift the way you see things so that you see things the way they want you to see them in a way that serves them, then you continue to fall down the path and the pattern that they've drawn for you so that it ends up serving them. Maybe you're not dealing with a narcissist. Maybe you're just dealing with a regular heartbreak and a regular betrayal where there was no systemic effort from the beginning to bring you down or to hurt you. Like maybe you two were actually in love and something along the way changed and they decided to betray you in some way. that still hurts. Like, the person doesn't have to be terrible for you to be like, you're a terrible person, you did a terrible thing. They did a terrible thing and it hurt you. And you have every right to spend time being angry. You have every right to spend time not even knowing how to absorb or believe what they just did. Like, the stages of grief are stages. There isn't just one stage of grief where it's like, that's it, I'm done, I'm moving on, there's closure. No, there's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, there's acceptance, you go through stages of trying to figure out, how on earth did this happen? I didn't see it coming. There's stages of being in denial and saying, it was just a one-time thing. I'm sure they love me. There's no way that they would do this again. Maybe it genuinely was just a mistake. You go through stages of trying to really go back and forth with them on, why did this happen? And maybe if you explain it to me, we can work on it. You're going to go through stages where you don't want to talk to anybody and you're just so sad. And you feel like there's no way to get out of it. And then there's a stage of acceptance where you just say, I finally see things for what they are. Acceptance does not mean that you're okay with what they did. Acceptance means you finally believe that they did what they did. I used to always do this thing where when I was complaining about something that someone did that like really hurt me, if I was complaining to my therapist or to a friend, or I would say, can you believe she said that? Can you believe he did that? Like, that's how I would talk. And at one point my therapist said to me, you need to stop asking the question, can you believe they did that? Can you believe they said that? And say, wow, you really did say that. You really did do that. That's what acceptance is. It's not being like, oh, I'm okay with the betrayal. I'm okay with it. Like, I'm finally okay with it. No. It's about being willing to look at reality for what it is and saying, this is my reality. Because when you live in denial, you're likely to overlook it and to move forward on that path with that person and blame yourself for not being as secure as you were before that betrayal happened. You blame yourself. Even though your insecurity, which is not really insecurity as in something is wrong with you, it's because you're not feeling secure in the relationship anymore because you initially thought, we're in this together. We're faithful to each other. We're loyal. We're committed to each other. They would never hurt me in that way, and I would never hurt them in that way. And then they hurt you in that way. And then you decided to look at it as a one-time thing, or you decided to look at it as, oh, it's just something that sometimes people do, but they're committed to me as long as they come home to me at the end of the day, blah, 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 all that stuff. I'm not judging you for it. I'm just saying I understand that sometimes we do that. And then after that, when you've decided to move past it, if you haven't worked through the real genuine pain that it inflicted inside of you and figured out what it is that you need moving forward to rebuild trust with that person so that you can look at them as somebody who is genuinely trying to show you through their actions that they are working on themselves and working on treating you better and working on basically fixing what they broke. If you don't take the time to acknowledge that and you just say, the more I focus on this, the more I'm seeing my relationship deteriorate, and I just need to move past it because it's in the past, it's done, it happened. You're going to be walking on eggshells in your own life because the carpet of safety that you were standing on is no longer there. The stability you thought you had with that person is no longer there. That strong foundation you built in the ground on pillars of respect and loyalty and faithfulness and commitment and communication, those pillars are completely gone. Your foundation is crashed to the ground, and you're wondering why you're walking in a wobbly way. You're wondering why you don't believe them when they tell you certain things anymore. You're wondering why you're constantly on edge and looking for signs that they're betraying you again, or that they're lying to you, or that they're saying something bad about you. There's nothing wrong with you for having that kind of reaction. What you're trying to do is walk on steady ground when the ground is not steady. You're trying to act like, why is it that I'm wobbly when I'm walking? Like you're blaming yourself for walking funny, when the reason you're walking funny is that someone pulled the rug from underneath you, when someone broke the ground that you're walking on into pieces. They set a bomb to it, and now it's like all these big... You don't even know where you're walking. You don't even know when you're going to take a step where it's a leap of faith, where they tell you something and you believe them, and then you step, and all of a sudden it's like you're walking downstairs and you miss a step because the stairs don't look the same anymore. The ground you were walking on that was straight and steady doesn't look the same anymore. You don't know when you're going to have an uphill battle and when you're going to spiral down. That doesn't mean that something is wrong with you for the way you're reacting to the betrayal. It is the way that you are dealing with it. That is your reality. We need to stop blaming people for behaving in ways in response to what happened to them. Yes, you can hold people accountable, and you can say you are responsible for a little bit of your suffering, because you can always make the choice to no longer walk on that ground. But what happens when that person thinks that's the only ground they can walk on? You meet them where they are. You don't say, well, I'm only going to help you when you decide to no longer walk on that ground. That's not friendship. That's not being there for someone. That's judging someone. That's shaming someone. That's forcing someone to live in secrecy. That's forcing someone to hide stuff from you because they know that if they share it with you, you're going to look at them and say, it's your fault. This person showed you who they are. Why are you still with them? Meanwhile, you're trying to figure out why you're still with them. But these people put you in a position where you worry more about explaining yourself to them than you worry about getting yourself out of your own pain. Sit with that. Okay? I know these are words, but this is beyond words. I really need you to move from just saying, wow, that makes so much sense, to actually letting it sit in your body. Like, let it do what it needs to do for you. It is okay for you to struggle to heal when someone hurts you in a certain way. It doesn't make them the one with the power because they were able to hurt you. Like, listen to that again. It does not mean that they are the ones in power, that they were able to hurt you successfully. How weak is it to make a decision to hurt someone who you promised you would love? How weak is it to hurt someone who you promised you would understand? How weak is it to hurt someone that you promised you would be loyal to? How weak is it to do that? But we think they're more powerful because they hurt us in the way that they did and because we're affected in that way. If you are the one who's actually taking the time to heal from what they put you through, you, my friend, are the one with the power. Trust me. I know it's hard to believe it because you're looking at them and you're like, but they're not even like flinching. Like they hurt me in that way, and I feel like they've moved on with their life and they found somebody new and everybody's on their side and all that. You don't know anything about the way that their life is going. And your number one priority should be what your life is like right now. If somebody is able to hurt you and quickly move on and not have any kind of remorse and not speak about you in a kind way that actually reflects who you are, first of all, you don't want that person back. And second of all, you were saved. You were saved. Their inability to be the person that they promised you that they were, that's not your responsibility. That's on them. And it's not a reflection of how much you deserve that a person changes for you. Okay? There's this narrative out there that's like, oh, with the wrong person, they will do the right thing. Like if the person means something to them, they will change for that person. I don't believe in that, because I don't think genuine change needs to be for someone. I think genuine change needs to be for themselves. You keep coming back to blaming yourself when you say things like, well, they're a good person. Maybe I was just not their person. Maybe I wasn't good enough for them. Maybe they didn't like me enough to change for me. You're blaming yourself. Because the truth is, maybe you aren't their person, but that doesn't mean that you deserve that they betray you. Maybe you aren't their person, but that doesn't mean that you deserve that they cheat on you or that they lie to you or lie about you. Maybe you weren't their person, but that doesn't mean that you deserve that they degrade you or minimize you or treat you terribly. Maybe it's not that you weren't good enough for them. Maybe it's because you were too good for them. Maybe it's because they don't know how to handle the depth of your soul. They don't know how to handle the beauty that's inside of you. They don't know how to match what you have to offer. And so instead of coming clean to you and saying, I can't match what you have to offer because you are so amazing and you are so great and you are so invested, and I just simply don't have the ability to invest in the same way to reciprocate. Instead of doing that, they will try to convince you that what you have to offer is just way too much. Like, you're too much. You're too much for me. But listen to the difference between you're too much for me in a negative way and you are too much in a very good way. You're too much love. You're too much honesty. You're too much commitment. You're too much. You see the world in such a beautiful way that I can't see it that way. Do you see the difference? Don't blame yourself for someone's inability to treat you properly. Listen to that again. Do not blame yourself for someone's inability to treat you properly. Do not blame yourself for someone's inability to love you properly. Do not blame yourself for someone's inability to respect you, because maybe the inability isn't an inability. Maybe it's a lack of willingness. Maybe they don't want you to feel respected or loved or cared for or treated properly, because maybe they know that if they were to respect you right, and if they were to treat you right, and if they were to love you right, that you would grow and flourish so much that you will realize that you could do so much better than them. That's how their brain operates. I know that's not how you think, because you're not in a relationship to use someone or to manipulate them or to get something out of them or to feel better about yourself by breaking them down. But maybe that's how their brain works. Maybe that's their intentions, and that's why they think the way that they do. That's why they try so hard to, instead of empowering you and celebrating you, they try to break you down, or they try to just keep you on your toes so that you're so focused on them that you can't be focused on yourself or on your own future or on your own dreams. And the really messed up part is, if this person is really toxic for you, they will come back and look at you and say, you have no focus other than me. You have no focus other than this relationship. You have no ambition. You're just so focused on me. Why is that? If you are in that position where you're just so focused on the person you're with or trying to make the relationship work, honestly ask yourself that question. Look in the mirror and ask yourself, why is it that you're so focused on them? It's definitely not because they're treating you the right way. It's definitely not because they're loving you properly and treating you properly and communicating with you properly. It's because they're giving you something that keeps you off focus. Whether it's intentional or not, when somebody knows that something hurts you and they continue to do it, it is intentional. And if it's not intentional, that's even worse, because you know how we say the highest form of love is consideration? When somebody says to you, I didn't do it to hurt you, I wasn't even thinking about you. Hello. If someone loves you and they don't consider you with their actions and they don't consider how their actions will make you feel, that's even worse than them intentionally trying to hurt you. They're telling you, I don't even think about you as part of the equation. They are showing you where you stand in their life. And please don't take that as an invitation to try harder to convince them that you deserve a better life with them or a better treatment from them. It is not your job to convince someone that you, with all of your glory, deserve a place in their life. That's not your job. If someone doesn't see your value, trying harder isn't going to convince them that you have value. It already tells me that they are in a position in their life where they are threatened by any value that they see. Okay, listen to that again. They are threatened by any value that they see. You don't want someone in your life who looks at you and says, this is too much. I'm going to break you to this, and maybe then you'll be okay to be in my life. You don't want that. It's going to crush your spirit, and you're going to get to a point where you say, how did I get here? How did I get here? How did I get here? Listen to this podcast again and remember how you got here. And don't shame yourself for getting here, because let me tell you something. What you did was not with the intention of breaking yourself and shrinking yourself to absolutely nothing. What you did was trying to fix something, trying to grow something, trying to build something with someone. And you thought that all your effort and all your self-sacrifice and all your self-abandonment, because you didn't see it as self-abandonment, was working hard to make something work. That's what you thought. That was your intention. You weren't asking for mistreatment. You were asking for love. You were asking for understanding. You were asking for communication. But that's what you got in return. And you think that if that's the only thing they're willing to offer you, and it must mean that you're doing something wrong and you need to try something new and say something differently and pick another time. You hear me say it and you understand and realize how ridiculous it sounds. But I am here to tell you that when you're going through that, it doesn't sound ridiculous to you. It sounds loving to you, like this is how relationships work. And I really need to try hard to put my best effort to make it work. You've done all of this for somebody that you really care about. You've shut down your own intuition that was screaming at you. You know this. I don't live with you. I don't fall asleep next to you. And I don't hear the voices that go on inside your head as you're trying to sleep or as you're driving or as you're working. But I know that your gut was screaming at you for so long that you were with somebody who is willing to betray you the first chance they get. Even if you never, ever thought that they would betray you that way and your gut never told you that something was off, and then they did betray you in that way, You know what that means? It means that they offered you and your nervous system what feels like safety. And so you felt safe enough to not ever doubt them. They never ever put any kind of sign out there that they could hurt you in that way. And that makes them even more dangerous because they were able to hide it that much. But I'm going to tell you something that might wake you up in a way you never thought you would wake up. Even if you thought your gut was never speaking to you, it was. Something in your body was changing. Something in your appearance was changing. Something in the way that you interacted with the people around you as you were so blinded by what they had to offer you, by the version of them that you saw that you thought would never hurt you in that way. Something was changing, and people around you were noticing that something was changing. And maybe something inside of you was saying, this is too good to be true. If it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. Because people aren't perfect, and life isn't supposed to be perfect. Relationships aren't supposed to be perfect. So when something is that perfect, know that there is something there that's hidden. Because when you fall in love with someone, you don't only get to see the beautiful parts, you get to see the ugly parts. There is a part in The Only Constant where I talk about the fear of exposing ourselves to someone. And I think the ultimate form of love is to show someone every part of you, is to be open about who you are. I'm not saying spill it on them and let them handle it and deal with it. No, I'm saying show it to them. Let them know what you're working through. Let them know what your triggers are. Let them know what makes you feel loved and what makes you feel so hurt and so insignificant. I think that's the ultimate form of love, to be able to do that with someone and for them to handle it with care instead of using it against you. But in that part, I wrote that a big part of why we don't fully go into something is because we're afraid that if we fully go in, that the person isn't just going to see all the great things about us, but they're also going to see all the bad things. So instead of exposing ourselves, we say, I'm just going to stay hidden altogether. I don't even want them to see the beautiful parts, because if they see those, then they're going to see all the other parts, and I don't want them to. You can never be in a good, healthy relationship with someone as long as you are hiding. And if they are okay with the hidden version of you, I really need you to reassess whether they actually love you or whether they love the minimized, dimmed, hidden version of you that never has feelings, that never has needs, that never has expectations, that never has anything that bothers them. I used to, when I would hear people talk about the person that they're with, and they would say something like, you know, she was with me for 15 years and never expected me to take her on a trip or do this or do that or get her a ring, or she never gave me a hard time. I would work all day and come home, and she never ever complained to me about anything, and that's why I love her. I used to listen to that and be like, oh my God, like that's love. Until I realized that that means that person on the other end was completely invisible. So if the only reason you love someone is because they're invisible in your life, they're a willing, sitting on the margin of your life participant, that's not love. You're using that person for something, even if you don't directly say, even if you're like, no, but I'm not that kind of person that would use someone. Well, there's a difference between what your intention is and what the impact of your actions is. And if someone comes to you and they say, I need more from you, like I need to sit with you and actually talk to you about what I'm experiencing, what I'm feeling, what I'm needing from you. First of all, that's not an attack on you, and it's not a way to say you're not doing enough. You know what it is? It's an attempt to build something. Because the moment somebody stops expressing themselves to you and the way that you're hurting them and the way that your actions are affecting them, that's a sure telltale sign that they're on their way out. And the best way, the fastest way to get someone out of your life is to continuously make them feel like their feelings don't mean anything to you. Like you don't care if you're hurting them because that's not your intention, but you are hurting them, but you're saying it's not my intention. That's besides the point. Stop holding on to what your ego is saying and saying, my side, my side, my side. There's two sides in every relationship. There has to be a nice flow between the two, where the two of you are moving closer together, not, oh, I'm chasing after you. No, I'm chasing after you. No, I'm chasing after you. And I'm going to butt heads with you all the time. If you bring something up to me, I'm going to use it as a way to tell you, see, I can never be good enough for you. Don't take someone's attempt to work on something as an attempt to break something or to break you. Do not take someone's attempt to work on something as an attempt to break you. Don't take someone's attempt to fix something as an attempt to break you or to break what you have. And if you are on the other side of that, where you're like, I am trying so hard to fix something that I didn't break, and every single time I try to fix it, it makes me come across like I'm doing too much. You know what the truth is? You are doing too much. You are. You need to. Sometimes, we talked in a previous episode about the power of silence, about the power of saying nothing. Sometimes when you're trying too hard and it's not working, you need to stop trying. In The Only Constant, I know I mentioned the book twice, but I keep going back to it because I wrote all of this stuff in there. One of the ways to change your life, I think it's number 2 on that list of 5 things to change your life, is to stop trying. Stop trying. You've tried hard enough. Let things be what they want to be. You've put in all your effort. Now watch. Is this plant going to grow? Or is it just a dead plant? And I was trying so hard to resuscitate it and let it grow again. You know? When you've tried so hard and you know you've tried way more than you should try, you just stop trying. Let's go back to the topic of betrayal. You can't talk about the pain of betrayal without talking about what actually constitutes healthy relationships and healthy communication. I want you to stop beating yourself up for the way that you have dealt with the pain that someone inflicted upon you. I want you to stop beating yourself up for holding on to the version of them that they showed you they were, that you fell in love with. Don't beat yourself up for that. It is an indication that you are someone who believes people when they say something. And why is that? Because you say the truth when you speak. If you show someone that you are a certain way, it's because that's actually who you are. That's why you continue to hold on as much as you do. Not because you're stupid or dumb. Tell that to yourself. But then the second part of that is, decide to no longer hold on to past versions of people that no longer exist. They've changed. Maybe they never were who you thought they were. But the reality is, who they are currently is not who you thought they were. Who they are currently is not who they showed you they were. So why are you taking on the responsibility of taking them back to who they were before? It's not your responsibility. You weren't the one who manufactured them. You weren't the one who imagined who they were and then spoke them into reality, and then something about you changed who they are. They came into your life fully knowing that that's not who they are, and they showed you a certain version that they knew you would fall in love with. And you fell in love with them. And that is a beautiful thing. That is a huge step to take in your life. Just because they went back on the version of them that they showed you, it doesn't mean that you were the one responsible for that. I'm sure I will make many more episodes on this topic, and I wanted this to be from the heart instead of it being a prescriptive thing where I have notes written down and I say, this is how you move on from betrayal. I think the thing that I gathered from everything I said today is allow yourself to feel the pain of betrayal. That's the only way that you're going to get through it. That's the only way that you're going to get to the other side. And that's the only way that you are going to remind yourself of who the hell you are and what the hell you deserve, honestly. When you take someone's betrayal towards you personally, and I mean it in a way that says like, oh, it was my fault that they betrayed me. I didn't look a certain way. I didn't tend to them a certain way. I didn't this, I didn't that. When you take it personally in that way, like I deserved the betrayal, what's going to happen is you are going to be at the mercy of the kind of people who enter into your life, instead of you being able to get to know someone new and deciding whether that person is good for you or not, whether this person loves you properly or not. If you continue to take betrayal personally, as in you've deserved it, every person that walks into your life is going to dictate what it is that you get, what it is that you deserve, what it is that the experience that you're going to have with them. So take the betrayal as that's a decision that you made. That's something you broke. That's not on me to fix. And then you remember the kind of power that you have to demand a whole other level of loyalty and faithfulness and respect. Not just from this person, but from somebody else, from all the other people in your life. Take the time to feel the pain of the betrayal and learn from it. Not saying, oh, learn life lessons and you can't trust people and whatever. No. I'm saying learn about yourself, about who you are and about what you deserve. And I know that deep down you deserve that. I know in every episode I say, give me a word that this reminds you of. But I'm not going to tell you, give me a word that betrayal reminds you of. I'm going to tell you to write down 3 things that you know to be true about yourself that oppose everything that betrayal taught you. 3 things, wherever you're listening to this, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, wherever. 3 things that you have learned about yourself through healing, through that betrayal that you thought weren't true. Maybe they convinced you that you're too much. Number 1, I am too much for the wrong person. 3 things. I want to hear from you. And if you're not comfortable saying it publicly, DM it to me or send it to me in an email. I hope this episode helped you, and I hope that it inspired you forever to find healing in your own sanctuary, in your own soul, because it's there. It's there. You don't need anything outside of you to be in touch with yourself. You can have somebody talk to you and help you through it, and somebody offer a safe space for you to heal. But at the end of the day, there is so much inside of you that's there, so much medicine inside of you that is willing to help you heal. I hope this episode helped, and please share it with somebody that you know it will help. I know so many people in your life are probably going through this, and if this episode will help them understand what you're going through, share it with them and say, I hope this helps you be a better friend, or this is the way you asked me how to be a better friend or a better listener. This should help you. And please leave a rating and a review. If it takes 5 seconds, I would really appreciate that, because it just tells more and more people, listen to this. This is amazing. And if you think it's amazing, I take that as a badge of honor. I hope this episode helped you and inspired you to find healing beyond words. And until next time, have a wonderful day.